From the shores of the Great Lakes to the Gulf and Chesapeake too, changes in management are coming. Find out the details this week on the Indy Ball Report podcast. We're back again, episode number 305 of the Indy Ball Report podcast, the show that loves to talk about possible expansion or relocation sites, even when we don't want to. Isn't that right, Ryan?
It's just constant. What is wrong with us? Just the complete lack of self-control.
You got to ask what's wrong with us, but meanwhile, look around you. And
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I mean, I was like, oh, I'm going to do some more on-field content, immediately get into the weeds on expansion again and like team switching and leagues hopping into current affiliated. I guess, I mean, that's what the off season's for, right? I mean, it's also what the regular season's for, judging by how we do this podcast, but I can at least excuse it in the off season and we can act like that's not how we are constantly.
Yeah, fair enough. At least it's not taking away from anything in the off season, and it generates some conversation, I guess. And realistically, it's probably better than talking about a bunch of front office hirings and movings where it's like, I don't think it matters all that much that you promoted someone from a sales exec position to be like the VP of marketing and promotion. I don't necessarily think that's going to really matter all that much in the end.
Move the needle. Yeah. Well, honestly, me nailing it on that Marysville shot I took really kind of helps the validity of us talking this much about expansion because it's like, that one time Ryan was on it.
Remember that one time a couple months ago?
I mean, whatever. I think it's funny that if you go back like into like my YouTube history of what I've posted, one of the top videos is still what is it called? I'm pulling it now. It's the Atlantic League's odd problem. And it was about how like they don't have the right number of teams for like their targeted expansion, and they're going to come out with an odd number of teams. And I think it's funny that I posted that in
2 years ago. It says so.
Yeah,
2022,
2022, and we are now here in 2025, still talking about this.
Yeah,
kind of hilarious. Like,
yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like some of these things are just like a constant battle. Right. And particularly with the Atlantic League, because they're going to be the focus of the first story, because we're talking Aberdeen because they kept coming up and coming up and coming up. So that means we got to talk about them. Part of the problem is just like they have this innate ability to, even when they do nothing wrong, still be at the center of problems.
Yeah, it's true.
And I don't know how they manage to do it. I don't know if it's just the people they tend to do business with, the kind of people that they seem to attract. I don't know if it's just they're so ubiquitous in the space from which they occupy that when something happens, you immediately go, well, maybe this league will be able to help us out. I don't know what it is about them, but they always seem to be drawn in on this, and particularly on things that involve Maryland, because this could be a maximum, I suppose, of 4 Maryland teams, but a minimum of 3 Maryland teams when it's all said and done. So more like Mid-Atlantic League when we get down to it now.
Yeah, that's a strong point, actually. And it does make it more interesting considering that the Frontier League has shown their cards that they are moving south as well. Mm-hmm. And then it even interests you more when you remember like the American Association is in open talks with Murfreesboro in Tennessee. So they're pinching in to the Southeast as well. So like the Atlantic League expansion efforts are really starting to, be competitive here, where if they go below North Carolina, they're fighting with somehow all of a sudden the American Association and the Frontier League. And
you're fighting with everyone but the Pioneer.
Yeah, really. So that is definitely, I think, part of why this has interested me so much more as well. It used to just be, will this happen? Will it not happen? Is this a good fit? Now it's like every single one of these is kind of in the realm of
like,
Is
how
this
does
going to
it?
be a bidding war between leagues?
Yeah,
Which
it's
is
like,
so
how does this
strange.
fit into the bigger picture here, right? Like, is this like critical to your future expansion strategy? Is this just a market you would like to have? Is it
Yeah.
worth? Is it a market that's worth fighting over? I guess is the real question in the end.
And on the other piece, it's like, I, while we've said before, like leagues need to cooperate. The indie leagues would be better off if they work together constantly. But if they're not going to do that, then you have a really good chance as an indie ball league to put another league in a tough spot.
Yeah.
By grabbing up a couple, like if you can move on even one market or two markets, I mean, you really have put them now in a spot. So, if the Atlantic League, think about it, if you're the Frontier and you end up grabbing a spot or two off of the Atlantic League that they thought they could get. Now the Atlantic League, they might have eyes for expansion. They might have a town in mind, and all of a sudden they can't go there. If you're the Atlantic League, the Frontier League has been very open about wanting to go to Montreal.
Yeah.
And then, but they're going to need someone else, and they're probably going to need to be on the East Coast so they can make numbers work. Because I think they'll put them on 9 in the Northeast. So all of a sudden, if the Atlantic League grabs another spot that the Frontier League could have had, the Frontier League's like, well, now we're back to an odd number of teams, which they clearly don't want to do, judging by how quickly they're rushed to do New England instead of Empire State. So, yeah, man, pretty wild.
It is. And like the Southern strategy that everyone seems to be going with here, I'm always curious about, because there's certain markets that do make sense. They're large enough and they have, a population base that can sustain it. But there's also the fact of these are all outdoor venues. And as we've seen, even on the major league level with the Texas Ranger ballpark, it can only get so hot for people say it's not worth showing up.
Yes.
And so you always roll the dice of, with things getting warmer too, how many more like 87 plus degree days are we going to have? And are we setting ourselves up to be holding a time bomb here to where it gets to the point where it's regularly high 80s, low 90s at first pitch time. And by the time the last pitch is thrown, it's still in the mid 80s. And are we going to see a population of people that before would have came out now say, nah, it's too hot, I'm staying inside in the air conditioning, I'll go see a movie instead, or I'll just watch an MLB game on TV, or I'll find something else to do instead? That's always one there. And the other thought I immediately have, and I had when you mentioned like, oh, everybody's going for the same kind of areas, is if the Pioneer League can just figure out their finances, they're in a uniquely wonderful spot, because they could, with the kind of player base they operate under, keep their player expenses, and coaching expenses will be pretty much the same across the board, but I suppose they're probably lower. You could keep those big ticket expenses down and be pretty much unchallenged in whatever market you want, because it's not like you're going any further west than like Nebraska, or further east, my mistake. You're not going any further east than Nebraska. And realistically, west is where you're looking. You're looking like Oregon. You're looking like Washington. You're looking California, Nevada, perhaps something in Wyoming, or more in Montana, something like that. That's all your place here. And no one's challenging you. It's what, summer college ball, perhaps? So if you could just figure out how to get those expenses down, you can expand at your own pace. You can do just about whatever you want, and you can do it relatively unchallenged. And if the quality of play keeps going up like it has been over there, you start to make a very compelling case to go, we're pretty stable, we're very well ran, we're getting people signed here, the quality of play is good. Why don't you come play and spend your summer in the Rocky Mountains versus spending it schlepping around the whole middle and eastern part of this country in the Frontier League? Like, yeah, the bus trips aren't great in the Pioneer League, but at least you know what you're getting into, and at least there's some better scenery, and the play is better, and your chance of getting signed are higher. Taking a trip from Great Falls down to like Colorado Springs isn't as bad as having to go from Quebec City to Kinston, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm. And while, that's a limited trip that doesn't happen that often, it is relevant because you can pretty much you can really solve most of your travel issues if you can have the right number of teams and sort of pods together. And if you're a league, losing the opportunity to do that and then having to wait another year, maybe 2 years, whatever, to make that happen that can be a killer.
Yeah.
Especially if teams are losing money and trying to get things cheaper, being like, well, maybe next year, that's a tough one to take.
It's a matter of when you start having these large leagues, starting to treat them like almost college conferences, where you have to divide up the league into smaller leagues, and you just kind of generally play those teams, and you make an agreement like, yeah, we're not going to see everybody every year. Frontier League's kind of doing that now, where like you will wind up playing everybody every other year, essentially, where like, okay, they're going to come out east this year, then you're going to go out west next year, and that kind of thing. But if you make it a more extreme version of that, it's very easy to work out, where it's like, yeah, you're going to play the East Division this year as, say, the Central Division, and then the following year you'll play the West, and then the year after that you'll play either the East again if it's a 3 setup, or, I don't know, call it the North Division if it's a 4 division setup, or however many, you rotate your way through it. And you still do have a variety of teams with people that care about that. And there is still the fairness and competition there. It's competitively balanced. And you can keep things way more localized. And like you said, you keep those long, expensive trips to a minimum. You have like maybe 3 or 4 of them over the course of a whole season. And that's not that bad. You can make that work.
Yeah, man. We haven't even introduced
we touched on Aberdeen, but it's just that it's the more about the general.
Why are we talking expansion right now? It's because every single league has a lot riding on this currently, which is honestly, other than the American, which is kind of doing this in a weird sort of under the radar way, which is not weird in a bad way. It just makes me laugh. Exactly. Where there's a lot of rumors around what's going on with like the Frontier and the Atlantic and even the Pioneer, and the Americans like, we're in like Murfreesboro working on something, and then there'll be another team. All right. Yeah. Let us know.
That's the thing. Like the American Association is perfectly content keeping it their 12-team format, just keep rolling on like they have been. Like their biggest question is like, okay, we really do need to fill in the gap here with Cleburne. They are kind of
right. And I think part of the issue too is with the next jump, which would be to 14 teams, there will need to be another jump closely to 16.
Yeah.
Just to get the numbers even. Like
the scheduling's a lot
don't
easier.
Necessarily buy that. I gotta say, I recently had a conversation talking Frontier League where, they're going to go probably to 18-2, but like really you want to get to 20. I don't necessarily buy into that. I'm like, okay, it's 9-9. Sure. If once you do 20, it's 10-10, but you divide that down to 5-5. I get that the divisions are weird when they're 9-9 because you have a 5 and a 4, but I'm like,
keep in mind, it's a 4 division set up there this year.
Yeah, I know where it's uneven with the 5
5 4 5 4. Yeah.
But I'm still like, okay, maybe that I'm not necessarily sold on that being as big a deal and as urgent as it needs to be. I mean, if you're the American Association, even from a scheduling perspective, I don't think it's that bad of a thing. I mean, you play, 6 teams are playing division games and one of your teams is playing interdivision and having to travel a little bit at any given time. Like you can take turns with that. So I don't know. We're all over the board, but that's very in the weeds start to this episode, by the way.
I would say, just before we get to Aberdeen, the last point before Aberdeen, because we do need to get to Aberdeen, is I'd agree on the 20-team point. I think 20 is way too big for one league. I don't think that's a sustainable thing long term. If for no other reason than there's a lot of personalities in that owner's meeting room. There's a lot of things going on. Everybody has their own agenda there. And already, if you don't have a bunch of people all pulling in the same direction, now it's even more like herding cats. And I just cannot believe that you'd have nearly 24 people that can then all kind of collectively agree to do something. And it feels like you're setting yourself up to, I don't want to say setting yourself up to fail, but it's like changing the light bulb with the wobbly chair, right? Like for a while, it's going to be okay. But like, at some point, you're going to fall over. And it's like, how bad is it going to be when you fall over? Is it going to be just like, I'm a little bruised and scraped up? Or is it going to be you break your elbow?
You're tempting fate.
Exactly. That's exactly it there. And so, like, I get it. 1 is an even number. It's easier to do scheduling. It's easier to work with. I get it. But also, like, it's very much the category of, if you see a market you like, you jump on it and you keep your eye open to it, and you, I don't want to say actively pursue it, because that may be a little bit more of an aggressive way of putting it, but it's the kind of thing where you're keeping your eye open to it, and you're maybe not actively pursuing markets, but you're actively looking at what markets you might be interested in.
Yeah.
And I kind of put the Atlantic League in the same category, because 9 is a much different number than 18, where it's like, you want to be like 10, 12 range. That's like the good number, right? Like that's where you want to be. So for them, I get it. It's like a matter of, okay, we got to kind of like make it clean. With the Pioneer League, I get there. It could very well be a finance thing. It could even be a finance thing in other leagues where it's like, expansion fee would be nice. And in the Pioneers case, what's happening with NOCO? What's happening with some other places? That's a question that got to get answered too. Even YOLO jumping ship to a different market, maybe not the most confidence-inspiring action, although there's a lot more that goes into that case.
Yeah, I think that one actually I'm pretty okay with.
Yeah, I just always, though, when you see immediately one jump, it's like, okay, we'll keep an eye on it. But
it does show that, okay, we're not necessarily forward thinking on things. Or hold on. No, sorry. It shows that, okay, so as recently as last year, you were willing to make a move into something that probably wasn't going to be long term.
Yeah.
So
it shows flawed decision making. Yes.
I can get on board with that.
Yeah. So like that's their case out there. So I get they're kind of like, okay, maybe we want to look for something, although I don't know how much looking they're doing at the moment. With the American Association, they're very much in the case of like, only take things that are going to help you. Like don't pick markets that are like, oh, this could be good. Like don't do safe bets. That's all you should be looking at right now. And like, you're at 12. Just leave it at 12. Leave it at 12 until you have a solid 2 markets that can come in. You can integrate them well. You have a stupid playoff system that takes 4 of 6 teams anyway. What's the difference? It takes 4 of 3 or 4 of 7. The playoff system looks better, if anything, because it has a little bit more credence to it. Maybe you don't have sub 500 teams in the postseason, right? And then eventually when you find another 2 markets, 5, 6 years down the line, you go to 16, then you can go to 4 divisions of 4 teams and have a real playoff structure that isn't weird as hell. Or if you keep the thing and it's like, you could get rid of the divisions and make it feel better, right? Like, that's why it's like Murfreesboro, maybe not the one we want to pick, but like, hey, go for it.
I don't know. I'm more confident because there has been so much talk and build up. Like, this is not a rush process with Murfreesboro. This has been going on a while.
Yeah,
it's still in the beginning stages.
I just don't think it's good for them just because it's so far out of the footprint. Like,
maybe,
Gary would have to be the closest one to them.
They might have something else cooking. That's all.
I wouldn't be surprised. They've mentioned in the past they have like 12 markets they're looking at.
Yeah, so I'm less worried about what they're going on with that.
Yeah, no, they have more confidence than me.
If you want me to worry about you, announce a team joining next year. You know what I mean? Like, this is happening now. Like, we have 1 year to work out the details here. Sure, maybe it's because the ballpark's already built, but like also that means something didn't work there before, or someone else built something and didn't work out. Gastonia.
Yes, let's talk about Aberdeen.
Yes, sir.
15 minutes in.
Yeah.
So Aberdeen, the whole root cause of that previous conversation, the Aberdeen Ironbirds are rumored to be possibly going independent, although it wouldn't really be the Ironbirds, it'd be a different team based out the same ballpark. I don't imagine they keep the same branding.
We'll see. That's a toss-up.
I mean, would they be allowed to keep the branding?
Yeah, I mean, it's recognizable. And frankly, Ripken is still involved with Attain.
Well, he is a minority owner, though. So
yeah,
I don't know how much it will be.
He's involved. I mean, and he hasn't forced them to change it yet. So I don't know. I think it would be more of a feel thing. Like, do we think this brand is a good idea to keep around? Is it recognizable?
Yeah, right. Well, in any case, the point is the team that's
I'm in the weeds on this, my guy.
The point is, they may be going independent, that particular franchise, because there seems to be, I call it a feud between the city and the Ripkins, and that enabled a sale to Attain Sports in October of this past year, 24. And Attain owns Spire City, aka Frederick, and they also do own the Frederick Keys as well. And we've known in the past that they want a affiliate team in Frederick. And so it kind of makes sense. And the article that we have linked in the show notes, it very much sounds like they're not tied at the hip to keeping affiliated ball in Aberdeen, but they're very much tied at the hip of getting affiliate ball into Frederick. So it really would be as simple as the Atlantic League team goes to Aberdeen, the Aberdeen team goes to Frederick, and you just keep the affiliations the same. Essentially, be my understanding of how that would work.
I mean, yeah, okay, I understand what you mean. It would be more, well, see, I think the better way to say it is technically the affiliation would go to Frederick and leave Aberdeen, but the Ironbirds would stay in Aberdeen. And who knows what that means for them moving forward, right?
I suppose, but I always kind of made the assumption that if Aberdeen's affiliation goes to Frederick, then yeah, I guess.
Oh, and then what Aberdeen's doing on that part of the conversation, yeah, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah. What happens with that, with the former Ironbirds team? Like, the problem is the theoretical way of phrasing it is kind of odd, because it would be like the franchise that is currently the Aberdeen Ironbirds that has affiliation would no longer be there. It would be in Frederick. So
I don't know that that's correct.
No, because there's a franchise there that has affiliation. You would then take the affiliation from them, meaning the franchise itself would be moved. So that would not exist, right? Because you have the development license. So you would move the development license.
That's where we're caught up. So the development license, I theorize, would be moved because the owners would be okay with it and would allow the contract to dissolve, essentially.
Yes, that's essentially what I'm getting
at. If both parties are cool with the contract falling apart, there's no reason to enforce it.
Yes.
Sorry, we might have been arguing the same point there. That's on me. I didn't understand you were talking about the license.
Yeah, no. That's what I'm basically saying, is that because it's an affiliated thing and that affiliate franchise is the one with the development license, then that would just get shifted over.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, okay. So we're back.
We basically just disagree on whether or not it's the organization with the license moving locations to Frederick, or the license would be allowed to lapse and then be moved to Frederick.
Yeah,
that organization.
I believe so.
Which
yeah,
is semantics, I guess. But
yeah, I'm more or less just saying on paper.
Certainly not worth arguing over. So that's on me.
Exactly. Yeah, it is a very semantic based thing where I'm just saying, like, on paper, that franchise will be moved because it's the one with the PDL.
Head and tree corner over here.
I want everyone to listen to know this is the only show online or offline, for that matter, that would ever go into that much specific as to, is it a professional development license that get moved, or is it that it dissolves and then is re-rewarded?
But shout out to the two of you who must be so excited right now. Like, this is it. And, you're in it with us, and I love that.
Exactly. You're in the weeds. Everybody else is like very confused, and maybe they clicked off or skipped ahead in the conversation.
Yeah.
And like, good on all of you. And especially for all you visual learners out there that definitely had to hit pause, get a notebook, and start like making a flow chart of everything.
Yeah.
I appreciate that kind of effort.
Do that.
That's the kind of effort I love seeing. So good on all of you, all 5 of you that did that. Any event. So the team in Aberdeen, their future is in jeopardy because Attain bought them from the Ripkins. Attendance has been down. The city doesn't exactly like the deal they have because, well, they should have never agreed to in the first place. And now it looks like Frederick will become affiliated, although we kind of knew that was coming from past releases from Attain. We don't know what's happening with Spire City. We don't know if Aberdeen's not going to have baseball. We'll have non-professional baseball, we'll have independent baseball, or if all of this is for nothing. That's essentially where it is now. Also, there's currently a case in arbitration about how much the city gets in rent from the team. Team wants 100,000, city wants 2.5 million. Both of those numbers seem a little out there, although the team's number seems a little bit close to reality.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, yeah, I will say Attain at one point did say they would like to go with a 10-year lease renewal, but it would have a pair of 5-year renewals. So it's a 10-year contract. It can be renewed for up to 10, but there's a midpoint opt-out, essentially, where after 5 years, you can say, we don't want to continue it.
Okay. That's how I understood that, too. There was a chance. I was trying to think and trying to read into it. Is it 10 years and then 2 5 years? But I do think that was the way they meant it.
Yeah, I took it to be like it's 10 years, but split into 2 5-year chunks.
Yeah. Okay. I'm with you there.
So that's how I meant it. Yeah, that's pretty much the situation. So Cliff Note version would be current team in jeopardy because Attain wants to move around affiliations and civic government might not be most receptive to a team that has not fulfilled their idea of what they would be when first started.
Yeah, and there's a whole history of what that is. We don't necessarily need to go in now, but
would heavily recommend just reading the article.
Yeah, I think that, or the video I'm about to do on it. So keep an eye on
that. Options.
But yeah, I mean, I'm in the literal in the video. I'm gonna be like, go check out the article. So whatever. I guess it comes down to, it seems like Frederick makes more sense for the affiliated team to be at. It seems like a better money maker option. And when one ownership owns both, by the way, I in general like Attain. Attain seems to do fairly solid work trying to look out for towns as best as possible. However, this is a great example of why maybe having one large ownership group over many teams is bad. When you have some potential funny business happening where they seem to be essentially letting one team fall short of expectations, lose their affiliation, and then switching it to another city that they also own a team in. This is kind of getting a free pass because it does seem Aberdeen's not overly passionate about the idea of affiliated ball anyway in general. And probably as long as there's a team in that ballpark, we'll be cool with it. And Frederick does seem very passionate about having a affiliated team in their ballpark. So it's kind of like everyone's fine with it, it seems, in a way. I could be overly generalizing. But let's keep in mind, this could very easily be a different energy here and feeling a lot worse. So let's keep that in mind moving forward. To the point again. Yeah.
Is it especially bad when that same group essentially has a minor monopoly on baseball or a particular resource in one area?
Yeah, it's especially not great, I'll tell you that much. But it does seem, due to multiple factors, that Attain is okay with allowing the current trend to continue with Aberdeen not really breaching the expected standard for their development license and probably letting the cup pass to Frederick. Which I'm not sure how to feel about all that. I don't know that I even feel much, even though I am deep into this and interested, I guess. But
here's the thing. I want to have a stronger opinion on it. I think my bigger opinion is I'd like to just see the independent leagues at this point, all of them that would be, reasonably considered for expanding into Aberdeen, just kind of avoid this situation. I kind of don't want to touch it. And the reasoning I have here is just I get the sense that the local population doesn't have too strong of an opinion one way or the other about this team. I get the sense that already it's kind of been striking the attendance in that one piece there. It did mention that attendance has been dropping. It's a big stadium for independent ball. It's over 6,000 seats. which you're just not going to be able to sell out. And even if you sell half of it out, it still feels cavernous, even though 3,000 is a really good number to be at. And it just feels like the city government always expected this thing to be some sort of big revenue driver, some big boom for the area. And it's never going to be that. And it feels like no matter who's there, that's always going to be held against you. And maybe I'm off base with it because I don't really know what the local situation is. I'm going off one or two articles and some attendance numbers. But I get the sense that it's not a situation where you're going to be set up to really succeed. Not to say that you can't. You can overcome it. There's always the flour in the concrete. But I don't like the look of it. I don't think you're going to get a lot of support here from the city government. They may not be taking you down, but they're not going to be helping you up either. And if with an Orioles affiliation in Maryland that had Cal Ripken's name on it isn't drawing well, you assume you're going to lose a couple hundred people off the hop once you lose the affiliation, just from, the stigma around everything. And then you assume if you're going to do a rebrand, you're going to lose some people off the rebrand too. It could start to get into a really bad attendance situation. And from the sounds of this ballpark, it sounds like you need to do more fan-facing amenity upgrades. And if now you're going to say you're going to have a perceived difference in quality on the field, you're going to have budget stretched thinner because now you're paying the talent on the field. And that's not the major league club paying them. It's you paying them now. So you're not really going to be able to do as much promotional work, I guess we'll call it. You can't really do all that much. You got to get a lot more creative with it. And you're already in a state that isn't that big. It has a lot of baseball in it. And it's a community that's only 18,000 people strong.
One of the prevailing things, it seems, the fans have been feeling that they have not been doing enough for the fans. Their marketing and like the things they do for fans have not really been there. And sure, that is something you can pick up as you like sort of maybe hone in a little bit more for this organization. But I'm like, how far will that get you? And like, why would it be different now other than, okay, the venue they should be getting a good bit of money to upgrade. Cool. But also, will that make a difference? Like, what about this will make a difference? And that's where I'm kind of still tilting my head and trying to figure out where they're going with this.
That's just it, right? Like, I don't love this setup for someone coming into it. I see a lot of red flags with it. And like, what's the success right there? Like, with anything, before you go in, what does the win look like? Is it drawing 3,500 people a game?
Because I mean, Aberdeen's never done that. Like been pre-COVID, they were drawing like 1,700, 1,800. Since COVID, they've been getting like 12 to 1,300. Yeah,
and like that is not something you can run an Indy Ball team on. I mean, what was the number that we saw thrown around from Tri-City to where we need to have this many people on average a game in order to be? Yeah, I believe it was around 3,000.
Okay.
I believe it was around 3. So let's assume that capital region of New York is a little bit more expensive than, Aberdeen. And even then, I'm not confident in that assertion, but let's just go with it.
Yeah.
And let's say they don't go Atlantically because that would help them on costs, certainly. And they go Frontier instead because it's not like it's that crazy out of the footprint. And if anything, it helps you on your way down to North Carolina.
Right.
You've got to assume, like, okay, they probably still need about 25, 27 a game.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Well, I don't know. I mean, I think if they got it back up to 1,800 with some smart decision making, that might be okay. But they're going to need a full game plan just to get there. I mean, 1,800's pre-COVID numbers, and they've been stable at 1,300 for the past 3 years.
Yeah. So how are we going to find 500 more with vast change?
Yeah.
Like, that's going to be a tough one. Like, there's good changes, there's good risks to take, But when you're changing the branding on something that already, is struggling to get people in, like it goes one of two ways. Either you see a massive influx or a massive drop off. And if you get a massive drop off, you're out of business.
Yes.
So, I have hesitations about that. So I would just say, like, this is just a boondoggle you don't need. Let someone else take this thing on. And, like, I certainly don't think this would be good for the Atlantic League. I think, A, you already have enough teams in Maryland. 2, is plenty. I don't think you need the third in there. And I even say that understanding, like, Spire City is coming back. Sure. Okay. And, like, they're on hiatus now for 2 years. Okay. When they come back in 2026, I'm sure it'll be fine. I think 3 teams in that small of a state is a little bit of a gutsy call. Like, even when you had, like, 3 or 4.
Especially when the other 2 have not been overly successful.
Exactly. Like, this isn't even like you have a Newark, a Somerset, and a Camden type thing. Where it's like, okay, like, that's a lot. But you can, in your mind, you're like, oh, Camden's like Philly market, and like Newark's New York market, and like Somerset's kind of like, they're not really either of them. And like, it's close enough where like you could build a rivalry thing with one or the other, and like you can start to justify that.
Yeah.
Is there like a thing with Waldorf and Hagerstown and Frederick or Aberdeen?
It doesn't seem to be moving the needle now. I mean, they are fairly, they're unique areas. They're not really overlapping too bad, but it's just like, I don't think there's a buzz to it.
Yeah. So like that.
And it's not like the Blue Crabs are like a big thing that there's a lot of awareness of in Maryland anyway. And then, there's a competitor to them. Like Maryland is like, Southern Maryland is just not one of the first teams you think of if you're a Maryland sports fan in the city. Yeah. Or in the state rather. Like it's just not, it's I'm trying to think of a good example. Like if if this was like the big sports team in the state, this was the sort of pinnacle of it, of pro sports in the state, and everyone knew about, kind of like in Delaware, everyone knows about the Blue Rocks because there's one pro team other than, I guess the Sixers have a G League team, whatever it is, but then you could also be like, now there's a rival to them in the same state. And like that kind of, it connects in people's heads. Like, okay, I know what this means. It's building on a pre-existing familiarity. And I just don't think it's doing that.
Yeah. And like, I'm looking at where the stadium's located. And like, on one hand, very convenient to be right off I-95. The flip side is, I gotta imagine I-95 at like 6:00 at night, when a lot of people be traveling to a 7:00 first pitch, is crowded.
It's not crowded.
Yeah, and like that's got to be a bit off-putting. And like I'm not seeing all that much else around there that would attract people. If there's townhomes.
Well, yeah, because there was supposed to be building around there that never happened. It's supposed to be real estate development.
Yeah, there's a golf course that seems kind of cool, and then there's a bunch of like planned communities, which I guess you could try to draw them in, but like, how successful have you been there?
Yeah.
Oh, there's Chick-fil-A too.
There you go.
So, I mean, I don't know what else I have to particularly say about it other than like, it sucks if you're one of the 1,300 people that regularly show up to an Iron Burns game. That definitely sucks.
Which, talk about another thing where this might be, I'm going to miss the word here, like putting them in a spot.
Not inconveniently.
No, like negatively manipulating.
Gaslighting.
No, shoot.
Manipulating.
It might be turning off those people. Like it might be turning off the people who are already loyal customers with all this going on. And like they might not want to support the new thing. And honestly, there's a lot of other baseball around.
That's just it, right? Like, how far away is like.
This requires a lot of things to go right.
Yeah.
Like in a place where there's not a lot of track record of things going right.
Yeah, like you got Aberdeen right there. Or Aberdeen, you have Frederick that's not that far away. I mean, like Southern Maryland's a decent little bit. And I gotta imagine Salisbury isn't really anywhere near there. But there's not, I mean, it's not kind of like upper part of Maryland. So, I mean, like, realistically, you're not that far away from some other teams here. You can make it work, I should say.
If you want to, you can. I mean,
yeah, if you're a baseball fan, there's other baseball to find.
Yeah, I don't mean to be super negative on it. There are some current expansion options I'm actually pretty positive on. Like we mentioned earlier, like I'm pretty much feeling good about like Murfreesboro, and there's very little we know about that, but just the vibes are good to start. It's just that there's so much about Aberdeen that has not worked. That's kind of like, I would really need to see what it is that's going to be different this time.
Yeah. And like, let me be clear. I think there is a pretty obvious baseball option that could do well there. And that's the draft league. Like I think
draft league will probably need a spot, by the way.
Yeah, because Frederick will probably be out. If that's the case, Keys will probably be out. And so if that's the case, you can keep a relatively similar market that's actually a little bit closer to some of your more Pennsylvania, Trenton teams. Like that's not that bad. Like, yeah, the West Virginia Black Bears, they lose in that a little bit. They got a bit more travel, but it's not like it's that bad when you're right on 95. So if we're getting there, it's not that bad. I don't think you'll have that big of a drop off. You probably keep the same branding for that too. So business as usual there. Before there was short season A ball. So you're basically getting that same level of talent anyway. So you're not seeing that big of a drop off than you were in talent wise pre-pandemic to now. Like, I think it makes a lot of sense there. Your overhead is going to remain basically the same.
Mm-hmm.
You probably have a little bit more freedom to even do promotional work. And generally speaking, it feels like the fit.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know that that's a successful business either, but at least it's lower overhead. Yeah.
So that's kind of my full thoughts on it. I would just, if I was a professional league, I would try to steer clear of it until there's a defined plan and a realistic path to completing it. Because right now it feels like you're just kind of marching in with it's like market. It has a nice ballpark. Let's take it. And it's like, I don't necessarily think it's a market that will set you for success.
Right. I agree. You really need to see the 5-year plan on that, though.
Exactly. I need to see a little bit more there. And yeah, let's get off the expansion thing that we spent probably about 25, 30 minutes.
So much time.
Yeah. Let's talk about some on the field stuff. And with that, we have the answer to one of the burning questions of the offseason, which is who will be the next Chicago Dogs manager? Because they've kicked around for a while. This is the third manager or fourth manager in 3 years, depending on how much we want to count interim managers over there. And the answer to the question is Matt Passarelli. I believe is how that's going to be pronounced. It could be Passarelli. It could be Passarelli. I don't really know exactly, so we're going to go with Passarelli for now. Any event, he's been in the American Association since 2015, primarily as a hitting coach. Spent the longest amount of time with Sioux City, that was 15 to 19, then a couple of years in Milwaukee, 20 to 21, and then King County since 2022. Obviously, he's won a couple championships in that time, Milwaukee and Kane being the two most recent there. He played a couple years in the Frontier League as well, Johnstown, actually, in case you're wondering. Scouted for the Orioles and the Royals for a hot minute, and at least through my examination, the managing experience is limited to the 2020 California Winter League. So not exactly a lot there, and not exactly a long-term thing there, but it is something, I guess. General consensus seems to be a good hitting coach. His teams have found success there, and I believe some of those Sioux City teams have had pretty good offensive numbers. Would have to pull those up to confirm it, but seems to be the case there. A lot to be determined on the manager front here, but I would say having 9 years in this league, 10 years in this league, does say you have connections around it. You know how it operates. You kind of know the deal. So you're at least coming in with a lay of the land. The learning how to manage a thing is always going to be a curve for a first-time manager. And that's something that we always say whenever we get a first-time manager is year one is probably just going to be a finding your footing type experience.
Yeah.
So I will say that we know the Chicago organization itself has challenges, so I will be interested to see how that goes, and I will be very interested to see if over time we find out other names that were mentioned for this opening, or find out how well sought after this job was. Because on paper, you would think an American Association job in a fairly large market would have some draw to it, especially when they seemingly have success here. But the way they handled Butch certainly rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And I wouldn't be surprised if that hindered their ability to get a guy.
Yeah, I can tell you that there were multiple coaches staying away from this one. So there's no finding out, waiting and see on that one. I heard from multiple managers who are open to work that they were like, I'm good on that. And I'm just saying, there's a very good chance that Matt is now the best paid first time manager in Indy Ball right now in a very long time, if not ever.
He beat Lamar's number?
Seriously. He making money as if he had to go to Gary and he didn't have to go Gary. Just hanging out by the airport.
That's what makes it interesting, though, is like, okay, you got to pay a good number to get people into what should be a good job. What's that say?
Yeah, that's the thing. Think about it. It's an American Association job for like a playoff caliber team, and they couldn't find anybody with Indy Ball managing experience. Again, I'm not saying he doesn't have Indy Ball or like good coaching experience, but I'm just saying like it's weird for this opportunity to go to somebody who just has not managed before, and it isn't like an internal hire where it's like, yeah, but he's been coaching here for a while, so it says something.
Yeah,
and I think the something is that nobody wants to work there.
Yeah, and you would assume they have a decent budget too. It's not like they bring in no-name players either.
They do. Yeah, they do have a good budget. They were offering more and more money throughout this as far as I can tell from people I've talked to.
Yeah. So like if you have a good budget to hire a manager, you have a good budget to getting in players. And like it's not an undesirable location, right? It's not like you're convincing people to play in the middle of nowhere all year.
Right.
You're in a Chicago suburb. That's not a bad spot to be. Like as far as Indy Ball goes, it's probably one of the more attractive spots to be.
I know. For the owner who wants to win and is willing to spend some money. But look, man, it's about what the rest of that experience looks like.
Exactly right. Exactly right. But switching to Matt himself, what do we think about him as a hire? Him as the manager here? So here's the thing, right? Like, on one hand, I think bringing a guy that, while yes, first time, doesn't look like a traditional first time hire is nice. True. It is a soft landing on it. And considering the difficulties around it, he seems like one of the better quality guys that you were going to get at this point. So I like it on that front there. I am just very concerned that, the first time manager thing is going to hit.
Yes, I agree. And in an environment where it's not easy for an experienced manager to navigate it.
Exactly.
So that is tough. I think there are a lot of locations where I would say like this is a good hire and I feel really good about how this will go. Unfortunately, I'm nervous for Matt on this one. It feels like maybe there is real potential for this to be a garbage fire in the situation. So we'll see. This could also go very well. We said it's going to be a garbage fire this last season. They made the playoffs, but Yeah.
It's like you can only cheat it so many times before it catches up to you.
Right. And like we could be knocking on the door of that situation here, so we'll see.
Yeah, and like how many times are you going to get lucky and get a Jacob Teeter season?
Yeah, that's also true.
Right? Like you had Teeter for pretty consistently doing well, and then you also had Narcisco Cruz who had like two different stretches where he was like, oh, he's an MVP candidate.
Yeah.
So like sooner or later, it's going to catch you. It's a matter of when. But any other real thoughts on this Chicago situation?
No. I'll be interested to see how it plays out. I mean, we kind of predicted disaster at Tri-City last year. It didn't happen. I'm still saying let's wait and see how that second year goes. So what do we know? We're idiots, I guess, in summary.
Fair enough. I also think, too, part of the reason you can avert disasters when you have an experienced Indy Ball guy like Jeff Isom there.
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah, it kind of is like, okay, we could kind of get through it. Now it's like experienced American Association guy, but now experienced manager and not to the same level. So,
yeah, there's just added room for something to go wrong and continue to go wrong. Like I always say, like, experience allows you to kind of raise the floor of your result by sort of putting somebody there who really respond well under, after a couple issues happen. If you get somebody who's sort of not winging it, but like in their first go with it, if things go off the rails a little bit, it's much harder for them to know what levers to pull to make sure they can stop and get things going in the right direction again.
Experience tells you how to stop the bleeding.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, you can see first year managers do really well. It's just that when it goes badly, it tends to go really badly.
Agreed. Definitely agreed on that front. Moving on to the next piece and the last piece in the association, we have the Baseball Champions League groups that were announced today. As a reminder, it takes place April 8th through 13th in Mexico City, and we'll have broadcasting details and full details later on. But the groups are as follows. In Group A, you'll have Diablos del Rojos, the Mexico team, Tigres de Chinandega, I believe.
Sure.
Why not? They're from Nicaragua. Then you have Titans de Florida from Puerto Rico, and that makes it Group A. Group B will be Kane County, obviously from the U.S., Las Tunas from Cuba, and Pirates de Santa Maria from Curacao. So in case you're wondering,
letting you go with the pronunciation there, that was fun. You did okay. You hung in.
I think it was a solid B+ pronunciation wise.
Yeah. But okay. Sure.
I'll be a little generous to myself. Call it B+. Any event, the Cuban League does appear to be out. Curacao and Nicaragua are in, though. So
yeah,
interesting decision there. And then obviously we have 4 returners in the case of Cuba, U.S., Puerto Rico, and Mexico. But this is starting to really feel like Caribbean series plus friends.
Yeah, there's a bit of that, huh? I think it's like Copa Libertadores, maybe. That might not be it, but there's a soccer tournament down in South America, which is like literally like the South American Federation and like friends. It's like they'll invite Canada, they'll invite America, and like 1 or 2 other teams every year. It's like 4 added teams or whatever. And same energy. Which is fine. Whatever. It's fun. It's invitational. Like, let's do it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I'm curious about, I guess. I think
in the early stages, just keeping it going is a good thing. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, getting consistency here, because technically this is the 2025 tournament, and there was no tournament in 24.
Right. Like, getting it back on the board is important.
Exactly. So, I do like that. I don't know how interested I am in it. As bad of a thing as it is to say, especially as someone that really like wants to see 4 indie leagues play each other, and this is kind of sort of like it. But it's not the same.
Yeah, it's not. And it's like in the spot where we're going to be distracted with other stuff. It's preseason.
Exactly. So it's like, look, I don't want to hate, but come on. Like, I don't really care about most of these teams.
Yeah, I'm interested, yet I'm not excited yet.
That's a great way of phrasing it.
Okay. Yeah, and I say yet because I do think as this evolves, there is the potential for that.
Absolutely.
There's also potential for the next time this happens, there was like, oh, okay, we're doing this again.
Yeah, and like there's a very huge potential too that, we get to see like Cornelius Randolph hit a tank off of Trevor Bauer in the championship game.
Put a bounty on that guy.
Oh my God, how great.
I mean, just in general, not even on the field.
Yeah, really. But like, man, wouldn't that be a great moment for Indy Ball?
Oh yeah, I'm about it.
That's why I'm rooting for it.
he's currently pumping 87 down the middle, so it's probably a live option.
Which Kane County Cougar is most likely to take him deep?
Yeah, I just, yeah, we'll see. Who was it the other day? Oh, shoot, I shouldn't have started that sentence, man. Shouldn't have started the sentence.
Well, now you're in it, so.
I know. I'm looking for it. Oh, God. Talking about interesting performances of late. Come on. Who was it that was just working out and kind of put on a show? Indy Ball guy. Oh, man.
Oh, Kenny Sirwa?
Sirwa was like chucking like mid to high 80s knuckleballs, allegedly.
Yeah.
Now, I will say I wasn't overly blown away by the movement on it, but the fact that he can do that is fascinating.
Kind of want to see it.
I know.
Break this thing out, man. Let's test it.
That is the next thing. I mean, if you can chuck, he was throwing an 84-mile-an-hour knuckleball. Rob Friedman posted it. I mean, it did have some better. This video actually does have better motion. That's fair. I had it from a funky angle on the first one, but MLB retweeted it, which is sick.
Good press for him.
Yeah, man, awesome.
Let's get this guy signed, but not before he goes ahead and throws this shit in a live game.
Pitching Ninja retweeting it with signed Sirwa. We need this in MLB, buddy. You're not wrong. Indy Ball truly is like the life support for the knuckleball, and I love that because the knuckleball is the Indy Ball of pitches. Nah, right?
Yeah. Can we get palm balls back too while we're at it?
Oh yeah, the old like Roy Halladay changeup he was throwing.
Yes. We need more extravagance in baseball.
Oh, I think, yeah, I agree. Like, I don't know if extravagance is the word, but more like, what is it? Like some oddities and more indulgence.
Okay, I see.
Indulge in a weird pitch, and everyone should have a signature thing. Like the way was it? One of the Japanese pitchers, it might have been Darvish, maybe, and they were like, "Oh, he's got a screwball." He didn't, but the hype around it was sick.
I mean, like, even right now with Senga and the ghost fork thing.
Yeah, it's like, okay, it's probably just a fancy slider or whatever. It's not actually that. I read a whole article on it, but it's kind of that though. And like, it's like a pitch we've seen before, but it's called something different. And it just makes me laugh that like we're all hyped about it. And that's cool. Like I'm fine with it. Like I think it's great. Yeah, get excited. It's like, it is weird okay to be arms. Excited, guys. Like it's fine.
Yeah, even just in like the motions and stuff, like Crimble doing his like spider arm thing. Like he puts his arms all the way out and looks like a spider. Like that kind of thing. It's weird, but I like it.
You know what? And there's something we said for something that kids want to emulate.
So yeah, any other thoughts on the baseball champ? We're only like an hour in, if that. Too.
No, not really.
Okay.
Good luck, King County, though. Represent well.
Yeah, sure. Why not? So Mississippi, they have a manager too now. Joe Pesci.
Yeah,
he's going to be the first manager in Mud Monsters history. Was a bench coach in the Mets org for the last 6 years. Player manager in Germany for a while too. That was pretty cool. Won a couple titles over in Germany as well. Was part of the affiliated leagues for 7 years. Played 8 years at Indy Ball, although one of those years was in Italy. Which does sound like a great place to end your playing career. I gotta be honest.
Throw meatballs.
Literally. He also is one of the best rail cats of all time too. So that brings us full circle.
There you go.
And he's only 48. So I think it's kind of an interesting name, interesting decision to go with. Obviously has independent experience as a player, but now as a coach. So that does get me a little hesitant, but I guess there's something transferable from his time in Germany to here in the sense of you do have to build a roster, wasn't given to you. You are used to kind of working with a different type of player, which I think is good. And, being a bit of a younger guy too, I think is a nice touch as well. He also is better than some of the other names that were getting tossed around there too. So
yeah,
that's a huge plus. Big wait and see kind of guy though. Obviously, first year teams, sometimes you get High Point where it's like, oh, this is a playoff caliber team, and sometimes you get New England where it's like, oh, this is a tire fire. So, so hopefully it's more High Point than a New England. So. General thoughts and opinions on it.
Great question. I think generally it's a good hire for what's available.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, little nervous about the experience coming in, especially for a new team. Um, they do TJ White, so that should hopefully also add to the experience hanging around.
Wasn't TJ a
Uh,
Kingston guy though?
oh shoot, you're right. My bad.
Mm,
I can't keep those two coaching staff straight, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think okay. Look, I don't want to be negative on it. I think I'm actually pretty happy with it for again what's available. I do worry a little bit. I think Mississippi's going to have an uphill battle altogether, but I don't think. I don't know. I still don't know what to think. I had a few days to think about it, and I still don't know what to think because there's good signs and there's bad signs about the thing, and you're kind of weighing them in your head a little bit, like what's more likely to make the deciding impact. Where do you land on this? And I'll see if I can finally get a good process on this.
So, like I was saying, he has experience coaching, but it's affiliated, so I don't know how much I credit that. I do like that he does have a baseline
Mm-hmm.
for independent ball. I think there are some things you can take away from his time in Germany that are applicable here. I think Mississippi is an interesting market, one that I could genuinely see working out. But again, Southern markets, weather is more a thing than anywhere else. So that is something I do worry about. I think him as a whole, I haven't heard much about him one way or the other. But
Yeah.
that being said, I have more faith that he does have connections and does know people and is on decent terms with a lot of folk. I don't think it's a big coincidence that like one of the best Railcats of all time got hired into a job at a team owned by the current Railcat owner.
Yeah, that
I think
tracks.
I think there is something to that. Um, like I said, I don't. It's the kind of thing where I think after 2 or 3 months, I'll be able to really pretty much say like, okay. I think by the time we get to the 4th of July, I'll have a pretty good idea of like, okay, this is what we're going to be doing.
Yeah, once you see what the roster looks like and then what the roster moves look like,
Yeah.
I agree. That's kind of the fair time to start assessing something like that.
Yeah, because I don't think this is a case of like with Lamar where he got hired at the end of February, beginning of March, and then was told, yeah, you're playing baseball on May 15th. Go have fun. And was like, oh, okay, I got 2.5 months. I got like 60 days to go build a team. Great, great, great. And what Rick Taggart leave me? Okay, like a couple pieces. Okay. Like that is different. Like this, you're starting right from scratch. Little late in the cycle, but not like terminally late. But you have nothing to go off of. So you're all just going right from scratch. But he does or should have some connections in here. So this isn't a case like I was trying to get at where, he needs a full off season to really get the connections and get to know people. This should be a thing where like you already have something to work with. You'll expand it over time, certainly, but for now, there should be enough there to where you've put together a competent team that in a 96 game season should win reasonably 40, 42 games.
All right.
I think that's an achievable number.
Yeah, I agree.
I think 40 is an extremely achievable number. I mean, what was the look last year for that league? I want to just make sure I'm not like totally off base saying it. Just going right to baseball reference.
Yeah, 40 wins would put you even Evansville and Windy City.
I think that's a very achievable mark.
New England put up 38 wins last year.
40 is achievable.
Yeah. Who's in Mississippi's division again? I forget.
I believe that would be Gateway. I think it would be Evansville. Maybe Florence as well.
They're going to be playing. Let's see here. Good bit of Gateway, Joliet, Schaumburg, Windy City. So
Maybe
possible.
Schaumburg, Windy City. Okay.
Joliet will probably be improving. Windy City will probably be improving. Schaumburg is what they are. Gateway is. It's not an easy division.
I was going to
Not
say,
great.
Windy City, I feel better about them beating up Windy City, and Joliet, I think, improves a bit. I don't think
I
Pinto
agree.
So I think they could beat them up a bit on that front there. Yeah, I mean, there's Evansville in there that they could probably get some points off of. DE would be down east, I assume.
Yeah.
Okay. They get some wins there. I don't love a lot else of what I'm seeing here.
Yeah, it's a tough schedule.
Yeah, it's not exactly what you want to see, but oh well. That's life in the city.
Mm-hmm. Welcome to the party.
Exactly. But I think he can keep them respectable. And as long as we don't see it fall off the map, then it's a good sign.
Yeah, no 10-game losing streaks.
Exactly it. So
it's a weird, line to draw, but it's where we're at.
The standard is the standard around here.
Standard's the standard.
All those Steeler fans that listen are having a small aneurysm. Last point of order, Schaumburg stadium upgrades. Teams adding 2 new amenities and planning 2 major upgrades. They're going to have a new beer garden on the first base side. That'll be multi-tiered. And they're also going to add a Ben's pretzel stand on the first base side as well. So pretzels and beer, great combination.
Vibes.
A plus thing. Honestly, multi-tier beer garden really has my attention. I'm not going to lie there. It's a little too far to go to, but I love that as a vibe.
You'd enjoy York then. They got kind of similar energy going on over there.
I'm getting to York this year. That's going to happen.
Definitely, man. We'll take the trip.
That is going to happen. We're going to look at the schedule, find a good weekend to do all that. Furthermore, they're also going to be adding extended netting in and a team store upgrade as well. So those are some things. Third year that they're really doing some major stadium upgrades. I know they did the Daktronic board in the past. I know they did suite upgrades, a party deck, Amazon Fresh Kids Zone. That's a weird naming right for that.
Fascinating.
That is really odd that Amazon Fresh is the decision for Kids Zone, but whatever. Supposedly their 4th year in a row of growing attendance. I don't know how accurate that is, but they do always have high attendance. So even if they're lying about it, they're still doing well.
Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah.
It is interesting. They came up in conversation. We'll talk about their ballpark another time, but they came up in conversation this week as well. So maybe another episode we can dig into that side of it. But
I know they're always very well thought of as far as ballpark goes. Really organizationally, I never hear complaints about Schaumburg.
Yeah, it's true.
They seem to retain their talent.
Right, which is a good sign. I was just going to say, I mean, I don't really have many feelings on the matter here, but I will applaud at any time the expansion of the netting. Good call. Yeah, I mean, dudes are hitting the ball so damn hard. Like, let's maybe.
Yeah, but I like a little bit of danger.
Yeah, I know.
I say that because I stood up high away from the danger.
Team. Yeah, I was going to say, like, working for a team, all you can see is just so many people not paying attention, and you're just like, oh my God, please don't let this be the day I'm like holding a kid's skull together.
You're like, please God, don't let it be while I'm here.
I mean, honestly, yeah. I think like when I was in Wilmington, like someone got smacked, but it was like the one weekend I wasn't there. It's like, wow, all right. And part of me is like, don't dodge that.
Is it bad that that's always my reaction to things when I hear they go bad at work? I'm like, oh, thank God I wasn't there.
Yeah, right. Hey. Yeah, I think that's normal.
Yeah. So good on Schaumburg for doing those upgrades. So that's all the news I got for this week. We'll have a conversation now about the vibes around just general teams and whatnot. The kind of sense you get from just talking to people, like, who are the destination teams and which are the teams where it's like you happen to go there.
Yeah, it's fair. Like as an employee.
Exactly. We're talking employee side things.
Yeah.
I mean, at least what I'm getting is like, whoever knows my position for Chicago. I mean, I think we've heard enough people where it's like there's one or two individuals, particularly one individual where it's like life is kind of hard because of them. And then
Yeah.
there's other people that just due to circumstances kind of have to be like, I don't like doing it, but this is the way it is. So I apologize, but you got to understand where I'm coming from. So that's one where I'm like, in good conscience, from obviously the reporting I did about a year ago now, I can't recommend it. I don't think the vibes have really improved. And I think the managerial search kind of confirms it. And I think every time I talk to people about Chicago, they're like, yep, you're right.
Yeah, for the amount of times we've talked about it, we've had really no pushback from anybody around there. In fact, we've had a lot of people who are like, "Oh, I can tell you more."
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, by the way, here's my experience." I was like, "Oh, well, that confirms everything I heard, and that's a new thing I have to go confirm with other people." That's great. Thank you. So that's one where the vibes are very harsh right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Agreed completely. Oh, are you going through like a list right now? What I don't
really have a list. I'm just going with teams that kind of come to mind. There's a lot of teams, but quite frankly, I don't really hear that much about, so I don't have any information about them.
All right, I want to have to structure this a little bit. Chicago. I mean, Milwaukee has got a weird energy right now. Enough up in the air where it's like, I don't know what the deal is there. Gary seems a little stagnant, but the owners seem promising, so that's kind of another tough one to make a call on.
Yeah. Certainly.
Winnipeg, I really only hear good things about.
Yeah, Winnipeg, I always seem to get the sense where they're very well ran. They know what they're doing. I don't hear complaints about it. And the general vibe I just get from management there on all levels is they care about the team and they're doing what's best for the team. And they're not really stepping on that many toes.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't know. I kind of feel similar about Sioux Falls, unless I'm missing something obvious. No, not so much.
Not really. I know there's some, like at least there was at one point. I haven't heard it recently. A stadium talk about it. Like
there's that.
Yeah, the actual working of it, I haven't heard many, if any, complaints.
Yeah.
So fine there. I do think though, depending on if that stadium talk picks up again, they are one that we put on like the watch out. They may become a AA affiliate for someone.
Interesting.
I think that
might not be the worst thing if that's what you're into.
Yeah, I think that market could support it. I think the Twins would be interested in having it closer than their current one. I forget where exactly that is, but I wouldn't be stunned to see something like that happen.
Wichita?
Yeah, Wichita. I mean, I think I could see it.
Yeah, I think they might just upgrade there, though.
They did just get a new team, but I think there's something going on with them.
And they're DBH.
So
a whole other can of worms there.
Yes. But I just won't be surprised. I go with Twins just because like they're close there. There are other teams that would make sense, but yeah. I would be stunned. I would need a ballpark. Obviously, Birdcage is too old for anything other than that. But I just don't get the sense you're building a brand new ballpark for the Canaries.
Fargo tends to seem solid.
Yeah.
Sioux City seems mixed messages. I don't know that I'd overly endorse it.
Yeah, I wouldn't go hard one way or the other. I think that's one case where I would try to dig around them a little bit more. They also just had the feud with the actual
That's
city.
the one that always makes me nervous.
Yeah, so like, how much are bygones?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I am curious there.
Kansas City feels like one where it feels like weird vibes over there.
Too much up in the air.
Yeah, man.
Too much. It feels like, I should say, that there's more that meets the eye there, and I don't know how competent they become when you go further up the chain.
Yes, that is the same read I get. Let's see. Lincoln, I toss up.
Yeah.
I hear a little bit of both sides from what's going on with Lincoln.
Now, do you hear that more as a financial thing or more as a person management thing?
Financial.
Okay, good. So then we match up.
But they seem willing to be spending a little more this year, so I don't know. Maybe that's changing, but
yeah, like for me, I think
what the result actually is.
Yeah, for me with Lincoln, it's more like I'm curious with the finances. I don't think they're good, but I don't think there's bad people working there either. I think they're all, by and large, good people. I don't think there's a problem with that.
I agree.
Yeah. Cleburne.
I don't
Cleburne's
know what to make of Cleburne at all.
Cleburne, and this is just me kind of talking here. It's not me basing it on much. It's just it seems like there's always a lot of people going in and out of Cleburne. It feels
Yeah,
like
that's fair.
every off season, it feels like there's a slew of new people moving into new positions where it's like VP positions for various things. And I can't tell if that's they're retaining talent, so they're creating a position for it, or if it's they're cycling through guys. And if they're cycling through guys, then like, why are you? Is it because they keep getting hired to somewhere else that's, presumably higher up the chain? In which case, I'm not a concern at all. If anything, that's positive. It's a great launching point for a career for younger people. Great. Or is it they're leaving because the job, because of the organization itself? I don't think it's that. I want to make that clear. I don't think it's that, but I don't know it. And I do know that they, in recent years, have turned over ownership a couple times. So, like, maybe it's just that. I don't know, but it does seem like they go through and cycle through a lot of people.
So I don't really know what to make of them. And the weird thing that sticks in my head that always makes me a little anxious about them, this is such a weird thing, but like until like recently, they would just like antagonize was it, I guess the Rangers, or was it the Astros? The Astros, I guess.
Astros, I think.
Yeah, Astros fans. And it always just seemed like short-sighted. I was like, why are you just like creating enemies in like your remotely close market? It just like, I get that there was a whole ongoing beef, but like I was just like, I don't know. It didn't seem like a efficient and effective way of marketing.
I think they're pretty close to the Texas Rangers. I think that's part of it.
I know, but like they were like really like annoying Astros fans. I just was like, it was weird. I was like, what are we gaining out of this? Like a pat on the back from the Rangers? Is that what we want?
I think it was a little bit, if I remember the timeline right, it was right around the whole like trash can thing.
Yeah.
It was cool and trendy to hate on them. They're 4 hours away. So like, it's not really the same market. It's no more the same market than like Albany is the same market as York. Right.
Yeah.
So like, it's kind of like that. It's hard to like, I know personally, and this is an East Coast thing. I know people love when I mention that, where like you go, oh, it's two major cities. They got to be close to each other. And it's like, yeah, not really. I mean, this is like, just because they're in the same state doesn't mean they're the same thing. We're talking 240 miles apart. I mean, that's what the distance between Boston and Philly. So like, not really the same thing at all. So it's kind of that. I do agree, though. There's probably some Astro fans in your market. They're probably younger people, too, that would be more personally hurt by their moves and would see them more online. So probably still not a great idea. But I do think it's, while definitely weird energy and like try hard energy.
That was my thing. It just it felt cringe and didn't make a ton of sense is where my head went with it.
Yeah. So like I get it, but like same point, like it doesn't necessarily move the needle, but it definitely does have like that kind of try hard energy. In case you're wondering.
Which is just a weird way to make me kind of go like, what? No, I don't know about all that.
Yeah. Like also that 240-mile distance here. I'm trying to find a great comp here. It's about the same distance Boston is from like Newark.
There you go.
So like the New York Boston comp is the same thing. It'd be like a Boston team shitting on a New York team, or a vice versa. Really, yeah. Actually, Weequake is the one. So for those who know the area, Weequake to Boston. It's Newark. It's basically Newark. There you go. Have fun with it. Any event, only two other association teams we want to keep it structured.
Yeah.
Kane and Lake Kane. I just get the sense that they'd rather be affiliated, but no real anything there.
Yeah, I don't really have anything on either of those, honestly.
Yeah, Lake seems to be fine. A little bit finding their footing early on, but they don't really have much turnover to my knowledge. So
yeah,
there's no turnover. There's not much smoke.
What league we heading to?
I have the Frontier up and I have the Atlantic up. So whatever direction.
we'll go Frontier.
Okay.
Well, let's kind of roll through. Like, we don't even really need to go too in depth here. But
I was gonna say anyone that jumps out in this league. I mean, Rockland seems to be well ran.
They do seem to be. New York, as the kids might call it, does seem to be well ran. I mean, we've talked endlessly about Quebec.
Yeah.
If you are bilingual, there's your move.
Oh yes.
Ottawa seems.
Ottawa seems well.
Yeah.
At least from what I've interacted with, I have never had any like hint of unprofessionalism there.
Right, I agree. The
New Jersey contingent is kind of where I was looking.
Yeah, no on New England until we figure out more about what's going to be there. I mean, it's going to be New York running it, but we'll see what that looks like.
Yeah.
Tri-City seems like a good idea, but I'm 50-50 on Trois-Rivières. But yeah, no, stay out of Jersey. Don't do that. Don't work there.
Yeah, like here's the thing, like they're putting more effort into Sussex now, so I can't tell this is their like, oh, time to pivot move. But it also feels like I don't know, the vibes are just off.
Something's not right, man.
Yeah.
And I agree. It's almost like they had a moment of like, wow, that really didn't go well in Sussex last year, like on or off the field. Like, we need to not kill that off while we're trying to do this stupid project in Patterson.
Which, just as a side note here, once that deal's up, because I think this is either the last year or there's only 2 more years on it, do they stay in Patterson?
No, there's no way. But I don't know where they go.
That's the thing I was going to say. So then
it's not like they have a lot of options.
Move?
That's how they ended up in Patterson.
Do they fold or do they move then?
Man, I don't know.
Because I can't really think of a college they could go to. There's a lot of colleges around, but none of them really have a professional grade facility. Mm-hmm. If that rumored new Rutgers Park was getting built, then that would be something. But they're right on top of Somerset's territory, so I can't imagine that goes well.
I mean, I could see, if the Frontier League is adding a couple teams, ends up with an odd number, I could see it just, agreeing to shut that thing down and focus on Sussex.
That's the thing, like, man, like when we did the Q&A, it's like merge them.
Yeah, honestly.
Like,
there's no enthusiasm for that team.
That's the thing. And like, it's a shame too, because it's one of the more historic Indy Ball teams when you get down to it. It's been around for a while. They had a lot of success prior to jumping to the Frontier League. And so it's a shame to lose it. And they've launched a lot of careers, to be honest with you. If you go through their alumni, like Jim Cerny, Kevin Burkhardt, these are all names that were part of the Jackals org at some point.
The history is great, but the problem is the present's not good, and there is no semblance of a future here.
Because the problem is they should have just played nice with Montclair State.
No, they got no pissing contest.
Yeah. And then immediately after they left, they made it a nice ballpark. Who would have guessed it?
Wow. But, you played yourself.
Exactly. And so like I'm curious to see how that works out. And like at a certain point that dam's gonna break. And I hate to root for it because I hate to root for people to lose their jobs. I hate for there to be less independent ball. I hate for the situation to get to that point. But I do think it could be what winds up saving one of the two teams. So
right. And we also can't just keep allowing terrible decision making to be rewarded like there's no consequence on it.
Exactly.
So there probably won't be. It is what it is.
Exactly. It's a situation there. But yeah, I will say I do want to give props to Tri-City, though. That's a well-ran org.
Yeah, they got it together.
That's really well done. So props to them. Windy City, I don't know much about.
Don't know much about Windy City. Washington has it together.
Yeah, Washington's very well ran.
I don't know much about Gateway. Schaumburg seems good.
Yeah, Schaumburg I like. Gateway seems good too, from what I know.
Lawrence is a funny situation, but they seem fine.
Florence is the kind of thing where you got to fit the company culture.
Yeah, you got to have the vibe, which is...
Yeah, it's not bad or good. It's just not for everyone.
Yeah. That's fair.
That's how I describe Florence. Evansville is Evansville.
Yeah, not really sure about that.
They seem fine. No strong opinions. The two new ones are too early.
Yeah. Joliet, I would get involved with in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah, no, ownership's great, and I have a lot of faith and confidence in Mike Pinto.
Yeah, I think they have on the field and off the field. I think they have what it takes to actually make something out of that situation over there.
Exactly. This was a tear down year. It's going to happen. Next is going to be the start, or you start to lay the foundation, and then I think 26 or 27 is where you're really going to be like, oh yes, this is what they were building towards. I think you're going to see glimpses of it in 25. Just something the whole picture is there yet. I think that's what we could turn around. And I don't. That's not the kind of group that's going to rush it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So, I don't think there's anything else.
Yeah, I think we're Atlantic League now.
Yeah, let's go Atlantic League.
All right.
Charleston is
nope.
No, that's an ownership quasi. Estonia, they've had checkered history. I think they're okay.
Things have been going well. They were just talking about Gastonia with their front office, and it seems to be going well. Guys, it's getting easier to bring guys in, it seems like, which is a good indicator that the people who were in Gastonia last year haven't immediately warned everyone they play with not to do that.
That's always a good sign.
A year full of getting paychecks in bank accounts at the right time bodes well.
He certainly does. Hagerstown seems extremely well ran too.
Yeah, I'll give you that. A little too soon to judge, but it seems like it does have the support like internally, and it seems like they're getting the town more involved. You want to see some numbers pick up a little bit this year, but I didn't really see any major red flags in year one, which is plenty of time to show some red flags.
Definitely. High Point.
I'm 50-50 on that one. Not sure I'd suggest it or say stay away.
It's been a while since I've been in High Point, embedded with the people there. They've mostly all turned over since I've known them, so I can't really say.
Yeah, I'd be cautious. That's what I'd say.
Okay.
As I remember more conversations.
The two Pennsylvania teams?
Lancaster, I would definitely say that feels like a good move. I would say cautious around York.
Okay, that's
I hear some mixed things and the glimpses into some of the decision making kind of raise an eyebrow now and then. So just there's a few where there's the stuff that you usually see before it's like, oh yeah, there were signs. There's some of that. Not like a massive like collapse of the organization, but of just like, some issues here and there.
All right. The two New York teams?
Yeah.
Long Island's an army.
Yeah, sure. Long Island, for sure.
That's the thing. Like Long Island, here's the thing. It's just like you got to be willing to do things their way.
Right. Yeah.
Which is perfectly fair to expect. They have a
right. They've been at it for so long and they've been successful. So
exactly.
They've earned that right.
And the thing is, it's not like a lot of what they're asking is really unreasonable. In fact, none of it really is. So that's the thing. If it didn't work or there was a legitimate, like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that kind of problem, then that'd be one thing. It's just like, no, they have an expectation. They have a standard. They expect you to live up to it. And it works. So, like, you're going to do it. Staten Island, on the other hand, is in the process of building company culture. Let's call it that.
Yeah, I don't know. Staten Island, I'd give that some space.
Yeah.
Let them figure out what the 5-year plan is before getting involved with it.
Staten Island, let me tell you, I am willing to get involved in that mess and get you sorted out for your arrival in the Frontier League. I am more than willing.
Yeah, that's part of it.
There is
Lexington's a no.
Yeah, that's just they're too much up in the air.
So much to prove before you can feel confident going there. Spoken as somebody who went all the way there and then got laid off 6 months later.
Different owner though.
Yeah, but
still,
I think they're somehow making less than they were then.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's not good. They're another one where I get the sense of like, well, let's get back to affiliated.
Yeah, but it's never going to happen unless there's like some sort of additional team. Like that ballpark needs so much investment. And I'm honestly, I suspect we're going to have more cuts to the minor leagues in the next couple of years, and that might be enough to choke out a team like Lexington when it comes to most likely to get an affiliated team.
That's fair.
So different thing. That whole conversation about the next round of cuts, but it's seeming more and more likely.
You're right.
Womp, womp.
Only team left here is Southern Maryland. Then, unless
Oh,
we're
right.
talking about Fire City.
Well, that's a quick one. No.
Yeah, don't go there. That.
Do not go to Southern Maryland.
What if I'm their team photographer?
Then you can get hit by a car.
Big talk from a hack.
Hack.
You stupid hack. What does he know?
What do I know?
Just for that, I'm going to serve you with a copyright notice.
Cute.
And it though.
Only God to ever email.
That. Okay. Pioneer.
The Pioneer League. That's right. Okay.
Missoula, I like a lot.
Yep. Obvious.
Yep. Let's see. What about the other two Montana teams, Glacier and Billings?
Glacier, I do not recommend.
Do not recommend.
Nope.
Bad vibes?
I think that's an owner situation that we might be learning more about down the road.
Ah, I see.
Teaser. Yeah.
Ooh, I look forward to the video.
Yeah,
Billings.
We'll have to get through the Colorado one first.
We'll go to Colorado after we get done here.
I don't know what to make of Billings. I got nothing on Billings, man. I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, I don't have any thoughts on Billings. It's hard.
Great Falls, no idea.
Yeah, Great Falls, I don't know. Boise.
Don't know.
Yeah, Idaho Falls, don't really know.
Yeah.
Our friends in California.
Nah, I'd give that some space. I mean, no, I don't know.
YOLO's kind of interesting to me.
I don't love the ownership situation. I would stay away from it. But I agree. I'd rather get involved with Yuba Sutter right now than I would with Oakland.
Yeah. I'm going to do that.
Frankly, because it seems a little further away from the owners.
They kind of forget about it.
I know their GM. He seems to do some good work. So, yeah.
Ogden? That's a weird vibe, but it's not like a bad vibe.
Okay, so it's not a bad vibe. However, they do have an owner who's openly posting about how much money he's losing on LinkedIn. So, like, that would be a red flag. That would be, let that breathe a little bit.
That's a short-term option for you.
Yeah, don't plan on that being a long. Don't buy their rent there.
That's a case of you make sure you keep that resume looking good.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You're gonna need it. Make sure you're networking at all these events.
That's a job that you get, and you do not stop applying for the jobs.
Exactly right.
You can always turn one down if things are going okay.
Yeah. The 3 in Colorado to end this.
Rocky Mountain seems fine. I don't know much about it, but it seems fine.
Yeah, finances may not be their friend right now. I'd go ahead and maybe keep that in mind when applying.
Right. Say another one where I would not buy, I would rent.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Northern Colorado and Grand Junction, I'd
stay away from
on my upcoming video about that topic, because on page 15 of notes for that, I'm guessing now, I probably will get to about 40 pages of notes on that one for this video.
Yikes.
It is a deep well, and they're at the bottom of it. And
is it a deeper well?
Dug it themselves. Shut up. Yeah, I don't. So yeah, Colorado, Northern Colorado, and Grand Junction. Stay away from that.
Okay.
Look at us. We did it.
Yeah, that's everybody. That's the general vibes around. So if you're looking for employment, keep that in mind.
Yeah. There's your guide. I'm going to try to put together a more detailed thing down the road on all that, but that's a future Ryan project. I'm going to say it's time to wrap this thing up, mainly because I have 2 videos and a workout to do tonight, and I have to wake up in 4 hours.
The workout's a losing.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
All right, let's wrap it here then. We have about hour and a half this week, so really not that bad. Really,
yeah, man.
Pretty solid.
Almost a legitimate podcast. Look at us.
Exactly. You got plugs you want to throw out there? Let the people know.
Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Indy Ball Nation. Yeah, I'll be posting stuff. I'm posting some reels. What am I up to? Posting some reels. I got 2 videos coming out tomorrow, the ones that I'm finishing tonight. I'm trying to get to the daily Monday through Friday videos, so I've kind of landed on here. So we're getting there. Trying to only get in the weeds on one video a week. This week's turn goes to the Northern Colorado Grand Junction story I'm working on. So you can look for that next week sometime, but we'll see if I can actually do it consistently. I'm trying.
That's good. And that's just Indy Ball Nation everywhere then, right?
Indy Ball Nation and all that stuff.
That's good.
Hell yeah.
So I actually put out content. That's cool.
Yes, you did.
I have an article about fixing the All-Star game. Have received some feedback, mostly positive on that. I am going to go in and clean it up a bit. There are some grammatical and spelling mistakes I noticed I'm going to have to clean. So,
no, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, no, generally, I think it's good. I think
I'm doing a whole follow-up video on my channel, so obviously I found it compelling.
Yeah, that's all I was looking for. I was just trying to get some buzz going off of it and try to make a coherent point, lay out my current thoughts on the state of all-star games across Indy Ball, give 3 major alternatives here. There's some that I am more in favor of than others. Yeah, I'll leave you to read that. That is on the website, indyballreport.com. Be sure to head over there. Links are pretty much on all the socials, also on the link tree, which is in, I think, all of my bios. So just go to a bio, click it, and it's right there. Just latest article brings it right to the page. So there's that one. Going to have a video up at the end of the month. That one would be as I go to my stack of papers from which I wrote my outlines on. In any case, yes, on the 30th, we'll have a New Year's resolution video up. I know, timely. But any event, it'll be about each of the leagues and what they should aspire to do better in 2025. So keep an eye out for that. That'll be on the 30th. It'll be a video. It'll be on the YouTube channel. We'll try to keep it under 10 minutes because otherwise you'll lose attention. And that's not good. So keep an eye out for that. Indy Ball Report on YouTube. Indy Ball Report everywhere except for Twitter, which is Indy Ball Pod. So yeah, that's what I got going. So that's about all for plugs. That's about all for this week. I think it was a productive show. I think it was a good week's show. I think it was good effort and energy. So on that note,
pat yourself on the back. You deserve it.
I think I do. I definitely do. So don't forget to play ball.